here. All right, here we go. There you go. Okay, here we go. Hello, everyone. This is Chuck Taroni, Reading's Conservation Administrator. This meeting will be conducted in person and remote format consistent with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, which further extends certain COVID-19 measures regarding remote participation in public meetings until June 30th, 2027. Please note, not all items may be in fact discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. These agendas include those items which can be reasonably anticipated to be discussed at this meeting. Please note that this meeting is being recorded, and all material for this meeting is available at the Conservation Division page under projects by year. Brian Bowe, the chair's commission, the commission's chair, will facilitate this meeting. Please note there will be a public comment period at the end of each hearing. Each vote will be taken by roll call, and we will begin with a roll call attendance. Brian, can you review the agenda and take roll call attendance?
Sure. I'll start by reviewing the agenda. The first and only hearing tonight is
Recording in progress.
For determination of applicability for 102 John Carver Road. As I said, that's our only hearing. Then we have a number of discussion items. The first one is certificate of compliance for 259 Main Street that we will not take up tonight. We'll do that in the future agenda. That'll be followed by a presentation about CPA. Then we have a proposed plan change for 32 Harvard Street. And 15 Carriage Lane is a certificate of compliance conversation. And we have a discussion on our policy for accepting land donations. And then we have a number of old new business items. First is an enforcement item, the conservation staff, DPW meeting, and so forth. I won't go into it. So this order, I call people's name, will be the order we vote in, starting with Chirag.
Chirag Salekar, member present.
Walter Talbot, member present.
Tim.
Michelle, member present.
Rick Hugh, member present.
Martha Moore, vice chair present.
Brian Bowe, chair present. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
Okay. So our first order of business tonight, order 704. Is 102 John Carver Road.
Thank you, commission members.
Before you start, Jack,
Yep.
anybody online be joining you?
Yes, the homeowner's online, Sarah. As you see her online, Chuck.
So Sarah, if you want to raise your hand so Chuck can find you and let you in.
Okay, for the record, my name's Jack Sullivan. I'm owner of the Sullivan Engineering Group. This RDA is in front of you at 102 John Carver Road. Norse Environmental performed the delineation. There's bank flagging and BVW flagging for this project. This does abut the Aberjona River, but this portion of the river was determined to be intermittent under past filings. So our work is really just, we have a small amount of work proposed within the 100-foot BVW buffer. There's a proposed deck with steps. We're a little over 96 feet away from the bordering vegetated wetland. With this project, there's an existing single-family home that's outside the 100-foot buffer zone with a one-car garage. The one-car garage is going to be demolished, basically in the same footprint, but slightly larger. They're constructing a 1.5-story garage with some living space above it. This project did go before the Zoning Board of Appeals. They did, the owners did receive a special permit from the Zoning Board for approval. So as I stated, basically the entire addition is outside the 100-foot buffer. There's a small little portion of the deck and the steps are within the 100. The backyard is relatively flat. I do show spot grades. We are proposing a 12-inch diameter mulch silk sock to be placed at a limit of work line. There's no trees to be removed. There's no grading changes within the 100-foot buffer. So I think at this time, I'll turn it over to the commission. I know you were on a site walk, and to see if you have any questions on the project itself.
Okay. People who are on it, somebody want to give a quick rundown of what we did out there, what we saw? Martha, I nominate you.
Okay, I'm happy to. It is a big flat yard, so, we haven't got a lot of concerns about erosion from the project. We did make note that the, 25-foot buffer zone, contains a swing set and a tree house kind of structure. And there are not supposed to be structures inside the 25-foot zone. There's also a pile of grass clippings in the corner of the fence near flag 1A behind the 16-inch tree in that back corner. And we also noticed that if you go through the gate to the shore of the river, there are some piles of leaves and sticks and a remarkable fallen tree that goes across the stream there with an enormous root ball behind it. I would suggest that part of the conditions for the project would be to remove the grass clippings and the leaf piles down to the point where the leaves are starting to decompose, take them to the compost center instead. I would propose that when the children have outgrown the treehouse and the swing set, or when the family puts the house up for sale, whichever comes first, those should be removed at that time. And I had a couple of questions. One is, where is the construction entrance going to be, and where are the stockpiles of soil and or materials going to be?
Construction entrance will be the existing driveway. They'll use that for access. The soil stockpile, it's going to be a garage. I don't think it's a full basement. So it's not going to be much excavation. I think they'll remove materials from the site. There's not much room to stockpile. If they did have to stockpile, it would be in the front yard outside the 100-foot buffer zone.
And is that where the materials will also be stockpiled, is in the front yard?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else caught anything I missed?
If I remember correctly, there was no true foundation for the garage area, which is why they're rebuilding.
That's right.
So there has to be some excavation of some form.
Yeah, they'll excavate down, they'll put in a frost wall with a footing, but that's half the reason they're taking down the existing structure, because there's no foundation to it
Then you'll remove as you go.
as we go.
Okay.
I would just add, are you concerned about groundwater? Do you think that's a concern here?
No. No.
We did notice that the downspouts for the house currently, one goes onto the driveway and one goes sort of next to those proposed steps, and onto a gravelly area there. So they don't currently have infiltration from the downspouts. It just goes onto the ground. But it's a big, long, flat yard before the water would get to the stream.
And actually the slope kind of goes up, goes down a little bit from the house, but then kind of rises heading towards the stream.
So do you have any plans to infiltrate the roof?
No, I talked to the owner about that. It wasn't an expense. They just had a baby. She just had a baby boy. So, and I know their budget's tight even to do this. So I said to add infiltration would be $5,000 to $10,000. And I said, you're outside the 100. I said, typically with the commission, if I'm inside the 100 with an addition, I always show some type of infiltration, but on theirs, that we weren't looking to do that since we're outside the 100.
I'm just wondering whether perhaps a rain barrel at one of the downspouts would be within their budget and something that would be useful to them. That might give them a little bit of,
That's not a bad idea. Could Sarah speak to that, Chuck?
She's on, yeah. She would like to unmute herself.
I'm here, yes. Hi. I think we would be open to that, although perhaps on the side of the house, aesthetically, I wouldn't want to put one on the front, but the way it's going to be off the side of the house could work quite well for that.
Okay.
So would then just the water from the back of the house make it to the rain barrel? Or would you put like a pipe slanting down along the side of the house going to a barrel in the back?
Sarah, do you know off the front right corner of your house, is there a downspout to the ground there?
Yes.
Looking at the house on the front right corner, I mean, there's only one gutter in the front, it's such a small house. Yes, there is a downspout that it's directed on the right side of the house that goes towards the back, and because of the grading there on the right side of the house, the dissipates into the yard.
So it sounds like she could put a rain barrel on that right side where the gutter, the downspout comes down.
On the right side of the.
On the front, if you're looking at the front of the house from the street on the right side, it sounds like there's a gutter with a downspout. If someone has Google Street View, I could see
Okay,
it.
there's a downspout, okay, there's a house and then the addition, the current addition. On this corner, so left-hand corner of the right-hand piece, there's a downspout that goes into the little garden and the water then runs under that area.
Okay.
But I don't think you could run the water across, right? So you have to be on the left-hand side of the new addition going somewhere.
or in the back corner by the patio, right where the 100-foot line crosses the back corner of the house, if there's a gutter back there.
So back left?
The back right.
Well, on the side where it says existing chimney, if you went back toward the backyard.
Yep.
There, if there's a gutter there and a downspout, that might work. I think we don't need to nitpick where it is. If you can find an appropriate place for it, I think that would be a positive addition to this plan, but I
I
don't
would
know
agree
that we
with
need
that,
to micromanage
except I would
it now.
remove the if, find a place for it.
Okay.
So if we say we're gonna find a place for a rain barrel, and that's a condition, Sarah, does that work with you if we find a spot for the a rain barrel?
Yep, that's not a problem.
Any other questions from the commission? Chuck, you anything?
I don't have any questions. It just sounded like there was a gate in the back. And you said that the pile of yard waste was over by flag number 1B,
No, 1A,
1A,
inside, just inside the corner of the fence. That acute triangle up
Right
there.
here.
Yeah, inside the yard, that's grass clippings.
It's actually
And
very,
behind the gate is leaves.
right, on that one inside the gate, it's a very tall pile. So we were speculating that maybe it was some kind of a compost pile or something as opposed to just quote unquote yard waste. The leaves, I think, are yard waste. They're outside the fence. But Sarah, can you tell us what the pile inside the fence is about?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So the root system for that large tree that is tipped away from our house, it kind of it falls, it goes right there. And so that fence was a bit of a challenge to place, but that was pre-existing. Kind of the mounds back there were pre-existing when we bought the house 6 years ago. The clippings were definitely new, we're just kind of finding a place to compost those, but open to them if that's the preference. It was mounds from the roots from that tree.
Okay, so based on that, I would say that there needs to be a condition for removing the top layers of the leaves outside the fence and removing most of the pile to the left inside the fence, again, down to where it's already disintegrating. And I apologize for stepping on your time, Chuck.
No, I just needed clarification with that. No, I'm satisfied with this project. Most of it's outside the 100-foot buffer zone. There's only a proposed deck with no roof and some stairs within the jurisdictional area, and the erosion control seems appropriate. So I'm satisfied.
Does anybody in the room have any comments, questions? Anybody online have any comments, questions
Just raise your,
about this project?
yeah, just use the raise hands function, the reaction button. Seeing none.
Okay, Martha.
If they wanted to have a compost pile, I presume it would be okay to have it in the other side of the 35-foot line? So they could have a compost area near their shed, for example? Or does it have to be outside the 100-foot?
No, I mean, it's up to you. I don't mind if people use like a small area of their property, but a compost pile can't just be a pile that's not contained. It should be within a fence or, you know, a compost bin or something like that.
But to answer your question directly, I would say yes, by the shed, that's on this side of that slight rise.
Mhm.
So I think that would be perfectly safe, if they wanted to have one. Okay, can I have a motion to close the hearing on 152 John Carver?
I move to close the hearing on 102 John Carver.
Sorry,
Walter Talbot seconds that motion.
Chirag Staliker in favor.
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Michelle in favor. Gio in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor. Okay, this is an RDA, so can I have
Yes,
a motion to issue a negative determination for 102 John Carver?
I move to issue a negative determination for 102 John Carver.
Walter Talbot seconds that motion.
Chirag Staliker in favor.
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Michelle in favor. Gio in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor. You're all set. Thank you.
All right, Jack.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. So next is our first discussion item, which is 259 to 267 Main Street. As I said, we're not going to be taking that up this week, this meeting, so that'll be on a future agenda. And the next item would be the CPA presentation. Is somebody here?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know what I was looking for. Great, okay, the CPA presentation. Can you come up and introduce yourself, please?
We've got our slides down here. All right, I am now wearing my CPA representative hat. I am the Conservation Commission representative to the Community Preservation Act Committee.
I'm Sandy Matapia, co-committee member, CPA study committee, and I'm the at-large member of the committee. And I think what we're going to do tonight is present the slides, and we're going to do it sort of as a duet. Do sort of a Q&A presentation to kind of get them all along.
Excuse me,
Yes.
sometimes it's hard for the audio to pick up people back there, so if you could raise your voice just to be sure.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so next slide, Chuck. And we will have a request for you at the end of these slides. But Community Preservation Act, most of you were here for my presentation last spring. It's a way that we can raise money through a small property tax fee that goes to open space, which is conservation and recreation, historical preservation, and affordable housing. And by implementing this CPA program. The state will give us some money if we raise money as a town. So it is a way of getting matching funds from the state. Out of all the 351 towns and cities in Massachusetts, 201 of them so far have adopted the CPA. Next slide.
So let me go back one slide and just for purposes of continuity here, underscore two things in this slide, which we're going to pick up on later. One is the surcharge, and the other is the match. So exactly what would constitute the surcharge that would appear on local property tax bills. We'll get to that in a little bit more detail later on. And we'll also talk a little bit about the match. Those kind of together make up the amount of money in a pot that would go to these three particular subject areas. So I'm going to introduce the next slide, which is who are we and what have we been doing? Go ahead, Martha.
Yep, I jumped over that introduction on the first slide. They produced this, the select board created this committee in the spring of 2024. They were hoping that we would be able to, like Winchester, vote on this in November of 2024, but we didn't get created in time to do a reasonable study before the deadlines for getting on that 2024 ballot. So we're now looking at the November 2026 ballot. There are representatives on this committee from conservation, that's me, recreation, historic preservation, affordable housing, a member of FinCom, and a member of the select board, plus Sandy is our at-large member. And our job was to study whether or not CPA was a good idea and various ways that we could adopt CPA if we thought that was true, and then to present our findings to the select board. And we have been to the select board once and asked for a time extension because we felt like it wasn't a good idea to try for November 2024, but they gave us an extension to get us to 2026.
Little add on to that is that at the end of this slide, our main target is to serve something up to the general electorate in the statewide ballot November 26th, but there are a series of milestones or steps that this adoption process needs to go through before we get to that point. And again, in a later slide, we'll detail what those steps are on the schedule for them. So that's
Next slide.
who we are and sort of what we've been doing, which is a lot of due diligence, trying to get our feet under us by studying some of the history in town, as well as neighboring communities, and picking up sort of good practice tips from a statewide coalition that serves the communities who have adopted this law. So that kind of carries us through to the next slide, which is more specifically drilling down on each of these subject areas. What types of projects come to mind to those folks who think along these lines? Where the money would be applied? What projects might be good examples of benefiting from CPA funding were to become available? And Martha is our lead on this particular subject.
Okay, so I talked to you guys in the spring about the fact that we could have purchased all those lots on Grove Street that are now enormous houses. We could have used the money to buy the property that's now the parking lot. Town Forest could have used some of that CPA money for the removal of those dead red pines. In the future, we could use some money for upgrades or repairs to Matera Cabin, improvements to the community garden, improvements to trails and boardwalks, and other similar things that we could do with this money. Sometimes there is a state or federal grant that requires a local match, and the CPA money could be drawn on for a local match for those kinds of grants.
Yeah, one of the things, and this is sort of a third prong, where you raise money by surcharge on local property tax bills. That's sort of the primary ingredient of the pot of money. that goes to these different subject areas. And then there's a state match, that's the second one. And sort of a third prong, which is difficult to define, is the last one that Martha mentioned, which is in this particular case, matching grants. And as we'll see in other subject areas, there's other forms of what I call leverage, you might call sort of turbocharging the basic funds and sort of multiplying them so they become even greater and can serve a greater purpose. So here we are in open space. Next is recreation. I'll take it up.
Sure. So we could have spent CPA money on Birch Meadow Phase 1 and Phase 2, which has been going on this summer. We could spend it on playground repairs. There are a number of tennis courts and basketball courts around town that have been neglected and are in bad condition, and their maintenance has been pushed back year after year because other things were more important. We could spend it on pickleball courts, which has been a popular item right now. And one thought is that the CPA money could be used to encourage fundraising by some of the sports booster associations. If they had a way of raising money to reach a matching goal, sort of like those public television, you know, if you donate, we have $100,000 that you can match that funding. So it's one way of encouraging some sports boosters organizations to get some more funds donated.
Add on there would be that we did a little bit of research and tallied up about $500,000 over the last 8 or 10 years that have come from booster type organizations. So those are sort of private funds, usually on a project specific basis. But if there was a pot of money, a portion of which was dedicated to recreation, you could then use that pot, if you will, to incent or encourage or match, as the case may be, funds for a particular project. So again, it's just a way of sort of turbocharging things that might otherwise happen or could be available for funds to start the process. That's recreation. We next go to historic preservation.
Mm-hmm. And we have a number of buildings in town that would qualify for CPA funds. The Historic Commission would also love some funding for historical markers and for paying for an archivist to organize their materials. And just looking at this picture of the Pleasant Street Center, once ReCal is built, what happens to the Pleasant Street Center? If there is renovation done to that building, it could come out of CPA funds. Next. And then affordable housing. There is a great need for affordable housing in Reading, and a long waiting list for people who want to move into our existing affordable housing. And this is another place where if we provide funding through the CPA, we can use that for matching funds from state grants and other programs that would help us create more affordable housing in town for people who need it. Okay, moving on, next slide. Okay, how much would we raise, Sandy?
Okay, so this slide and the next slide is filled with a lot of numbers. And I'm going to try to simplify it for you and then rely on questions that you might have to sort of bring out any of the nuances that you may be interested in. This slide is, were we to adopt this law locally in one form or another, namely at one surcharge rate or another, what amount of money might we expect to generate, both from the locally raised revenue as well as the state match? And then if I could toggle, Chuck, if I could toggle just between these two slides, the next one is designed to show how that kind of breaks out in terms of who pays locally to raise this money and what it would mean to them on their local tax bill. So if you go back one, and to start, we're looking at something on the order of $1 million at a 1% surcharge. It can be a little bit less or a little bit more depending on what that match is. And just to elaborate a little bit more on the match, you see here two different percentages. One goes back several years ago when real estate was pretty much transacting at a healthy clip at 39% match. So whatever monies were raised locally, there would be 39% add-on, if you will, from the state. And then last year, 14% reflecting what is a pretty low level of real estate activity, because the state match is made up of fees that are collected at the registry based on papers that come in over the counter for real estate transactions, things like municipal lien certificates and deeds and mortgages and so forth. So each one of those pieces of paper has a fee attached to it. All those fees go into a fund. And then at the end of the year, that fund is distributed to communities who have adopted the law. Right now, town of Reading, I shouldn't say the town, but people who buy and sell real estate in the town of Reading pay that money into the registry. None of it comes back here. It goes to other communities. So the last two lines are designed to give you a snapshot of what it would have been a few years ago, what it would be last year. And if you kind of look sort of in between, you're about $1 million or so on a 1% surcharge rate. And if you go to the next slide, what you'll find is we're at 1%, taking the average homeowner plus what's not indicated on this slide, which is a $100,000 exemption from the first portion of the assessed value. Maybe I'll restate that so it's clearer. We're looking here only at residential properties. And we're taking an average or a median, pick your row, and saying the committee would adopt, as is usually the case, an exemption for the first $100,000 of assessed value for those properties. So the assessed value minus that $100,000 exemption, multiplied, if you will, by the tax rate in the town of Reading, gives you what would then be subject to the 1% fee. To simplify it, at 1% for the average single family home, we're talking about $100 a year. That would be the hit, if you will, to the average homeowner. So round terms, which I guess is a very easy way to think about and retain the impacts of this law, is that it would raise folks' average folks' tax bill by $100,000. It would generate
by $100,000.
Excuse me, $100 a year. I'm sorry. I'm flipping on to my next thought here, and that would generate about $1 million to the town to be used for what we just talked about. The further thought on this is that $1 million, as we talked about, is sort of based on a low level of real estate activities. So you might expect that that would increase. The other thought, which I think is particularly interesting, and this is based on a fair amount of research, which the chairman of our committee, Joe Carnahan from Finance, did, is that the town, on average, this is just sort of coincidental, expends about $1 million a year for what are CPA eligible projects. So what we're talking about is generating a pot of money about the size that we annually spend for projects that would be CPA eligible. And we're doing that in a way under CPA where we would get approximately 15 or 20% at minimum kicker from the state, plus all those multiplier effects from matching grants and so forth that we're talking about. So bottom line, I think one might propose is that's a pretty good deal.
Next slide.
Okay, just on dates and steps and so forth. At the moment, we're going through outreach to interested boards and committees such as yourself. And we will be doing sort of an informational presentation to town meeting in the fall. Based on all the input that we receive from our outreach, we'll make some decisions on, in particular, what surcharge rate to propose or recommend to the selectmen. Serve that up to the selectmen sometime at the beginning of next year. Go to town meeting in the spring to see if the voters will, or the town meeting members, I should say, will endorse that. And if so, it then moves on to the statewide election in the fall of next year. And then following that, assuming adoption, by the way, those are both by majority vote. Assuming adoption, there's some follow-on steps that take place really on the mechanics of the law of forming a bylaw, which would define the committee that would administer this law by way of recommendation to town meeting. And it's only if town meeting approves, are funds authorized to be expended for any number of these purposes. So that's a quick summary. And Martha's going to kind of give you some takeaway points or requests.
Yeah, and just to be clear, a minimum of 10% of the money raised has to go to each of the three categories: open space and recreation, housing, and historical. And then the other 70% can go to any of those categories. So it could be divided a third, a third, a third, or it can be heavily weighted towards conservation 1 year and historical another year and housing the third year.
And how is that decision for the allocation made?
The Community Preservation Committee recommends it, and then town meeting votes on it.
And you don't have to spend it every year. You can reserve it as well.
Yeah. Okay, so next slide and last slide. This is the last slide. So the question is, we would love to have the support vote from the Conservation Commission to support the recommendation of this CPA. And I don't know if it got on the agenda in such a way that you guys can vote tonight, or we can vote tonight, or whether it has to be put on to be voted on in 2 weeks. But the other thing we would like is to have your opinion on, should we go for the 1%? Should we go for 1.5? Should we go for 0.5? It's a risk versus benefit, risk versus reward balance, because if we ask for too much and it gets turned down, then we get nothing. If we ask for too little, we maybe could have gotten more. So the question is, where is the sweet spot of what percentage to ask for? And towns are allowed to go for up to 3%, but we've been advised that keeping it around $100 per household is the way to be more likely to have it pass. So that's why we're looking at the 0.51 or 1.5%. So, and then if you come up with ideas of what you would like to see CPA funds spent on, we're happy to have you report those back, I guess, to me, and then I'll take them to the committee. So is it something that we can vote on tonight, or is that something we have to?
It's on discussion items under vote.
Says vote.
So we could vote. I don't know if anyone was prepared for it, but it is on the agenda. But maybe there's some questions also.
I do have some questions.
Right.
First question for you, Sandy. How are you chosen as the at-large representative?
Select board composed the committee, and they defined its mission. And so I applied as a volunteer to be the at-large member. I've got a little background, a lot of background in environmental law, so I guess that was the credential that they saw they may have put me forward on.
And this committee that's going to be deciding on the allocation of the pot of money, is there guaranteed equal representation among the different causes, how would that committee be comprised?
I'll give it one thought on it, which is, it was scheduled for tonight, but I'm not sure it's going off. The bylaw committee, there was going to be a presentation also to the bylaw committee by representatives of the CPA committee. And so the bylaw, which was indicated in one of the two slides, after the law is adopted at a further town meeting, a bylaw is proposed for adoption, which would establish the committee, including its composition. And that can be, we've talked to a few peer communities where that was a particularly, highly political exercise, because there's a fair amount of money that would be at the discretion of the committee to sort of sort through different projects and then recommend to town meeting which ones they think worthy of funds being used for.
But I'm
So-
pretty sure that conservation is guaranteed a spot on that committee,
Yeah,
which
so
is how I got the spot on the study committee.
right, so we have this in Arlington, and we have the guaranteed members are Conservation, Historical Commission, Recreation Department, did I say
Housing.
Conservation, and someone from the housing, yeah, and then others. And so those might be controversial spots. But someone from Conservation is guaranteed a spot, just like Recreation. That's my understanding, unless things have changed. It's been 5 years since I've been on our CPA committee. But, and I was gonna ask a few questions about that, because it seems like I heard a couple, I don't know if you were finished.
Never finished. I have one more. Go ahead.
You want me to ask? Yeah.
Go ahead, ask your
So
question.
I heard you talk about maintenance. I didn't think that was allowed. Has there been a change to allow maintenance?
Sorry. I think
So-
what I meant was upgrades.
Okay,
Yeah, there's a distinction between projects that
so
are not-
preserve, protect personal or real property from injury, harm, or destruction, that kind of stuff. That's kind of like the criteria. This is the community preservation allowable spending process.
That's for acquisition.
Yeah.
What you just read, I think, is the definition of acquisition. Is acquisition.
No, it goes across all lines, so
Recreation.
they've Xed out the ones that don't apply, but this definitely applies to open space, and open space is kind of similar to conservation in a way, so. But that was my question, was it, what,
No.
maintenance?
No, maintenance is specifically excluded from all the categories of projects.
Right.
And by maintenance, is that general maintenance or is a major renovation considered
No, it's not a
maintenance?
major. That's the distinction that's important, is that if, as I understand it anyway, if you're doing restoration or rehabilitation, that's CPA eligible. But just, sort of routine, reseeding of a field,
Yeah.
which you do every year, because of flooding on it, I would think would be maintenance, for example.
Sure, and the other question I had is, you mentioned that Joe Conahan had looked at some particular amount of money that's spent each year.
Yeah.
And my understanding is CPA is also not allowed to take on any project that was on the capital plan. Is that true or not? We're not allowed
I
to,
don't know whether that's true or not.
Yeah.
I've never heard that. Joe did a lot of work and we had a lot of discussions. I've never heard anything.
I think that might need to get checked
We did look
into.
at the capital plans that come up, as well as the budgets, what was approved for funding and not, or delayed, as the case may be, which is where the $1 million came from.
Yeah, I think unless things have changed, if it's on, so whoever's putting the capital plan together, you start thinking whether this will be accepted by CPA, but if it's on the plan and the town was supposed to take care of it, you can't take it off the plan. But you do have an opportunity, and you should look into that, because it can't go either way. Yeah, Materia Cabin, I think the deck would have been an upgrade that would have been paid for. And then you know, like a maintenance item, like some rotted wood, you couldn't have
Would not
that.
have- But doing a restoration, having meet code and what have you, probably would be. He
Yeah,
says
upgrades or to
personally.
bring it into compliance. The other thing that the Matera cabin has going forward is a lot of the CPA is available to conservation land that was acquired through state grants. And Matera cabin was, and so was some of our property. So that, you know, so some of the land is like, you can do stuff on land if it was acquired through a grant, but if it wasn't, then you can't. Now, I'm talking about when I was on it, these are things that, depending on your committee and how strict they are, whether they'll pass or not, because one of the big conversations in Arlington was, what about aquatic invasive management? Because is that maintenance or is that a one-time hit? Are you protecting your investment or are you doing yearly maintenance? Arlington landed on that it's acceptable to use CPA money for that. And so what they ultimately landed on was, if you go to the CPA website, they have all the projects that all the towns have agreed to. And that's kind of the starting point, because those are assumed to be acceptable. So,
There's a lot of guidance on the administration of the CPA, and all these questions that by way of example, that you're raising
mhm,
have come up before in one or another town, and the umbrella group, sort of statewide, is the Community Preservation Coalition.
Right.
And they do a bang up job with, I mean, if you look at their website, the data that they have on CPA and all the practice sort of suggestions and standards. So it's really well supported. But these are the types of things that you run into. They're gray areas, they're nuances, and you gotta understand where the line is. And
right. And speaking of support, the CPA offers you buy into their system and they will support you. I highly recommend that. They're a lot of help during the first year. I think if you've gone through this, you understand that there's some sort of like membership. I'm gonna call it a membership, but they do offer support. So I wouldn't recommend going it alone. Buy into their system and get their support.
From the CPC coalition.
CPA coalition, right?
Yeah. Got it. So,
I do have one other question. I'll come back to you in a second. But, so what was the thinking behind residential only?
I guess two thoughts for starters. One is it doesn't make a lot of difference in the numbers because the commercial component of the property tax revenue is relatively small. Somewhere in my folder, I can give you that delta if you're really interested. I think it was less than $100,000 per year, put it that way. I'm pretty sure of that. And then secondly is that we're trying to navigate a sort of a political landscape here, and different people, including on the select board, have got different views in terms of who takes an extra burden. The thing that I think I neglected to mention is that there are, in addition to the first 100,000, and as you are now pointing out, the commercial part of this, there are other exemptions that will be part of our recommendation, which include a low income exemption and a seniors exemption. And we haven't really polled the committee yet in terms of where their collective thinking is, but those are all up for decision.
Is multifamily residential included as part of that residential surcharge? Or?
yes.
It is. It would go to we go to the owner. All these fees are assessed to the owner of the property. For example, if this was a lease situation, probably would get reflected somewhere down the line, but I don't know how in any particular case.
Any other questions?
So I had one additional question. So these CPA funds, would they offset what is allocated to, for example, Conservation Commission on an annual basis? So the $10,000 or whatever, or is this in addition to those funds?
No, we'd have to have a project specific ask. So the Conservation Commission would have done their Bear Meadow project.
Mhm.
Or we could, so something like leveraging would be Millette, Soms and Morgan.
Mhm.
We got $2.5 million from Mystic River Watershed Association, but we were able to leverage another $500,000 of CPA money. And that's what got us the grant from the Mystic. I'm just saying, this is an example
Yeah,
that
right.
didn't happen, but that's how you leverage the money. They like to see outside sources. So there was a couple of occasions when we found some soils that needed to be removed out there that CPA would have come in very handy, because we had ended up having to go back to town meeting and ask for additional funds. Provided the timing was correct, we could have gone to the CPA committee. So they seem to be one-off projects in my mind, but by all means, if you guys could, answer Joe's question better than I can, that's what I would think. You would come up with a project, you would present it. If it meets the criteria, they vote it up and down. It's a two-part process in Arlington where you don't have to put a lot into your presentation. If they accept you, then you have to work on a better presentation. You come back to the committee and they'll decide whether you've made the grade to go on, and they'll take you through the process and then approve it, and then it goes to town meeting. So it's a two-part process.
So in Arlington, does that CPA request process run in parallel with the budgeting process? Is there some offset time-wise?
I think it does, because it's open right now. And so, and in our town, the warrant just closed. So it's kind of same. I don't know enough about it to tell you how you pick what goes on a warrant and what goes on a CPA committee. It almost seems like our best conservation ideas go to CPA, where we can actually do conservation-minded improvements, like in flood zones. We can create storage, and by diverting a river and creating storage next to it, and things like that, which probably wouldn't get approved. Historical one I was surprised at. If I'm doing this, then you guys don't want to hear.
No, you just hit a point that I was nodding at.
Can I just finish?
Yeah.
The one thing that would never be approved in town meeting was, we had a historic site, and believe it or not, the rock wall needed to be taken apart and put back together, just basically a stone wall. That was a lot of money, and only CPA through the section that's historical resource was the one which was able to get that money, because 10% goes in each one of these buckets and they're able to be used. So, and believe it or not, from what I've heard, historical requests are almost the most requests that go through, because it's probably a lot of backlog, and I don't know. So Sandy, sorry.
I think, Joe, back to your question, is that, to my mind anyway, technically they're separate. Whatever the committee's budget allocation is in the ordinary course is sort of side by side with CPA funded projects in that area. They're going to come up in front of the same town meeting. So there may well be some dynamic between the two. But if you step back from that question, when you look at what is being done here, is that for areas that typically don't compete well for money from a budget, what you're doing is you're creating an entirely separate system of fundraising and spending for that. And so, from a net perspective, I think you're really well ahead of the game. Whether you can continue to defend, if you will, your normal budgetary allocation, I don't know how you answer that question, other than to look at, other examples, but, I mean, the whole idea here, is to find a way to support, I'll call them community improvements that go to kind of quality of life that ordinarily don't get a good shake, and they end up denied or deferred or overlooked, or and they're always trying to catch up.
So those projects for like the Conservation Commission, I guess from our process, would those be raised through Chuck to the commission itself to vote on, or would it be a general discussion in a Conservation Commission hearing for ideas for projects that would leverage CPA, or how would that be handled?
I think anyone can come up with a project, but it needs the Conservation Commission's vote to bring it forward to at least the CPA committee. Private individuals can also access the CPA funds, so you do it on your own also. If you wanted to go through the Conservation Commission, have their support, it would take a vote from the Conservation.
So we would have a
Commission.
process defined of how to petition or.
We would have to have discussion in open meetings so people could hear what the thinking was.
Okay.
So it's not just a vote on it, it would be discussing,
Right.
deliberating.
Right, so it's not just a project that Chuck would come up with for the year. This is something that anyone in town could bring forth to the Conservation Commission by a specified date or time for the year. Or is it-
I'm not
is it
sure
all
about
like-
that scenario, whether anyone can come to, anyone in town that wants to do a project that's on conservation, yeah, they would come to us, but anyone who wants to do a project can just go straight to the CPA committee. So,
Okay.
I mean, if somebody had an idea for something to do somewhere in conservation jurisdiction, that certainly would be a path to bring it here to see if we had interest and what have you.
I certainly think the path would be through me. They would contact me,
Starting
we
point.
decide whether we want to go forward with it or not, and then it would come to the Conservation Commission.
And it's also assessed if it's CPA eligible, so it's not directly coming from the conservation budget or a capital request.
Yeah, yeah.
Just one last point. So, in terms of the town, meeting vote, the surcharge rate, that is going to be finalized by your group and presented, or is it a vote on each of the options?
I
How is that
think
handled?
we go to select board and select board puts one of those choices on the warrant.
Okay.
So we make a recommendation to select board and select board makes a decision on which option they send to the warrant if they choose to send it.
Okay.
Is that why you're asking us what we think?
Yeah, yeah, we're gathering as much information as we can so that we have a pool of people to take to the select board. We went to the street fair and 50 people voted and told us what they thought was the right surcharge. So we have that collection of data from people we ran into at the street fair.
So a scientifically selected group.
Well, and all the committees that we're presenting to and, et cetera. So, so I think we
Right.
have used up a lot of your time. If you
So
don't
at
have more
this point-
questions.
At this point, without doing a vote, do people feel confident you know enough to vote? Do you have reservations you want to go out, go read up on the side of this meeting?
I think I'd like more time, kind of going through it right now on the Excel sheet, see what towns are involved and. looking at
Okay.
Andover doesn't even have anything listed on there.
Okay, so you'd like to wait a meeting before we vote?
I'd like to wait, so.
Same here.
Or do you, anything you want to express?
If you want us to come back to answer questions, we're happy to.
Okay, at this point, why don't we put it off for just one meeting? The next meeting we'll vote. So make sure you do your homework beforehand, so when you come in, we can vote
Yeah.
if we're going to support this or not. That's our vote basically. It will be, is a Conservation Commission as a whole supporting the CPA proposal that they recommend.
And so, and if they have any questions, just reach out to Martha, who,
She's liaison.
yeah, get your questions to Martha, so Sandy and Martha can come back and answer those.
Spoke this was on since 2002.
Yeah. And Reading attempted to pass it the same year that we passed the override to build the high school. And it failed by a very narrow margin.
So hang on a second. So open meeting considerations. If somebody has a question, they send it to you. Does it go just to Martha? Otherwise it's deliberating, right? It has to go just to Martha.
They're asking her a CPA question. They can, it
Okay.
has nothing to do with conservation, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. That was really good. Appreciate it. All right, Sandy, we'll see you. Okay,
Next topic is 32 Harvard Street. Chuck, people said they would be here, correct? I think.
yeah, I don't see anyone here for 32 Harvard Street.
Somebody kept entering the waiting room named Rickles, John Rickles.
No, it's
John Rickles?
Sean Koff, I think it is.
No. Yeah, Eleanor's right here. So she's doing everything to get our attention. So I'm gonna let her in right now. Sorry about that, Ellen.
For her.
There you go. There you go.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Right in. So do you want to start us off by walking us through the pages you'd like us to consider?
Sure. Thank you. I wish I had a nice presentation like that, but I don't. So 3 things. A waiver of the infiltration requirement is one thing we're asking you all to consider. A second is a fence installation in our backyard. And then along with that, moving a proposed planting area to another part of the yard. I submitted the waiver of infiltration requirement first, so I guess we can talk about that one. Should I just keep going? Feel free to interrupt me. Okay. So originally you all approved our plan for downspouts to go into an underground infiltration chamber. We're doing big construction on our house over the main original footprint, except we're adding a 4 by 5 foot, making the back corner square. So we have added a little bit of square footage to the house. And because of that, we were required to do something with that rain runoff. And so what the decision was by this committee was to do an underground infiltration chamber. So we discussed that a lot with our general contractor. He says he can't recommend doing that because he would have to submerge the chamber in water in order to install it. So we sent a photo from May 9th, and you can see that the water level is so high that there's not enough distance between the bottom of the chamber and the groundwater table. I mean, he also said the cost was $6,000. Then we also discussed the option of along the back of the house installing downspouts and piping that water out under the yard to the edge of the existing wetlands. But he said during the rainy season, he was concerned that the water would back up the downspouts because there would be nowhere for it to go. And I think that's true whether or not there are holes in the pipe. And he said he would have to pump water out of the pipes out of the hole, the trench, in order to install the downspouts. So I feel like we've considered all the options that we can think of. And so what I'm requesting is the waiver, not to do the infiltration requirement, because I think all the chamber or the pipe sitting in the water would impact the efficacy. And we're only adding the 4 by 5 new area. So it shouldn't be a significant addition of rainwater.
Can I ask if you considered with your contractor the idea of directing the runoff into the gravel area under your new addition?
The gravel area, like we have a screen porch. Is that?
Yeah, right. And that's the addition, whatever you were building in the back left corner.
No. Do you just mean sort of sending the water all there and having it sort of sit under?
In the past, in a number of cases, is have people dig down where the gravel's gonna go. I believe the number is typically 18 inches, and you direct the water into that area, and then it infiltrates, through the gravel into the ground. And that way it's not running across your property on surface water, which is what we try to avoid. So that's something that you might talk to your contractor about.
I think the term for that we use is stone drip trench. Stone drip trench.
Okay. Yep, I can certainly ask him about that. Would there be any concern with, since it's right up next to the house? Or, I guess the downspouts wouldn't be going very far away from the house anyway.
Right.
And I will learn more about that. I don't know anything about the stone drip trench.
I mean, the drip trenches are often a linear trench underneath an eave or something, a roof line where it falls down. So it's typically next to the house anyway.
Okay.
So you're counting on it moving away from the house as much as towards the house. I don't know what the state of your foundation is or anything, but
Yeah, Ellen, you must have your foundation in place. Did they have to pump out water while they were excavating?
Yes.
I'm not sure why the pipe out into the wetlands doesn't work if you added an overflow section and a backflow preventer, which is just a flap.
Like installing a big chamber area.
Oh, it's just a
Under
it's
the
just
pipe.
a one-way door on the same pipe that you're sending out to the wetland, so water can go in one direction, but if it tries to come back, it will just shut the gate.
Mhm.
That, and then we typically ask for, on the downspouts, that there's a mechanism on them that allows for, if there was backup, it would just, it's just a backflow preventer, but it basically, if water comes back up, it just goes out the downspout towards the bottom. It's another section you just install into the downspout, so that would prevent it going up, up to the gutters. I think the groundwater is pretty high, and that hole, it looked pretty high. I didn't investigate it myself, and it sounds like we're getting a lot of comments from the carpenter or the contractor, who's not like Jack, like an engineer. So, I know that you used Meisner Brim.
Yep.
Was that evaluated by? I can't remember the person.
Yeah, Ian. It was
Ian,
Ian
yeah.
Ainsley. Yeah.
Ian have a comment on that, who is an engineer?
Right. And the last time we spoke about it, I think was a few months ago. And he did say that he thought the downspouts would move water away from the side of the house and potentially keep the yard drier. I didn't talk to him about the potential of the downspouts backing up or the flap kind of thing that you're talking about.
It seems like, well, I don't know what you guys think.
The backup flow preventer though, is gonna prevent the flow from coming down from the roof.
What goes way out into the wetland, you put it on almost at the end.
Somewhere along the line, it's gotta give one way or the other.
Well, it only goes from one direction.
Okay, but then now you've got more flow coming. Where's it gonna go?
On the overflow part that we talked about.
You're assuming it's gonna overpressure the wetlands flow.
No,
No, no.
there's an overflow portion too. There's two steps.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah, 2 steps.
Where would
I'm not, I'm saying,
Yeah, we're being.
these aren't like, these are things that we've, over the years, have come up. So it's, they've worked elsewhere. I don't know if, we're just asking if you considered them. Not saying they're appropriate for your property. You would have to talk to Ian or the contractor that's gonna put them in. But, I did see the picture, and I sent it out to everyone. The water in the hole was about a foot below the top. So I think when the contractor is saying we excavate, you would want that under the frost line so it doesn't freeze. It's gonna be in water anyways. How is this gonna work? It's not an easy situation. I mean, but it does seem easy to say it's not gonna work. And that's what I'm hearing a lot of, it's not gonna work.
What is the implication of putting like a rain barrel, but then pumping it to the street?
Like installing a sump pump, either inside or outside to pump the rain barrel water.
Well, to me, a sump pump is below the ground, which
Oh,
we can't
oh.
do. So I'm thinking something above the ground
Yeah.
and then pumping it to the street.
So again, we're not here to design. It's an interesting idea. I would just like to suggest you could bring these ideas, whatever, back to your contractor and maybe Ian
Yeah.
to see if any of these things are feasible, especially if you could go to Ian because he is an engineer.
Yeah,
So it would be best to say, or to add to that, that the commission is looking for some sort of infiltration. And so it would be better to not just, decide that these aren't going to work based on, initial review. But the only other thing that you said is, and this came up in the meeting, is, and the commission made a decision on this, and this is what we're going to be doing from here forward, and this is what we have been. You are, the new part of your house is above the garage and this addition. And so we counted both of those as what we wanted infiltrated. Even though the garage was there before.
right.
So
'cause it didn't-
we had come up with that accommodation. So if it ever comes up again, commission members, they have a very small addition. And it was like, why should we infiltrate? Well, it's our opportunity to do infiltration. It's their opportunity because there's already a backhoe there. Shouldn't be too much more money to just turn around, start digging in a different section.
So why don't we park that conversation?
Plus it works with the MS4 permit, which is something required by the town. So,
Do you want to talk to us about your next request?
Sure. So the fence, you may have heard our puppy, we got a new puppy. And we're interested in installing a fence in the backyard. And from my understanding from Chuck, we would be able to, the area that we would plan for is along the edge of the wetlands or I think it's technically the edge of the wetlands, and along the side of our property. So my first question is, may we do this? And then the second one is the currently approved planting area for the native replanting. If you look sort of in the top left, there's a gray area with dots in it. Yes, exactly. That's currently a bunch of rocks. And what we had proposed to do was remove those rocks, put some native plants, like I think a highberry bush is one example. It's listed on the plan. And then have some grass in there and then plant native plants along the border of the wetlands. And my question is, since we're going to be losing yard space by installing the fence, since it has to be this wacky shape, may we instead turn that top left-hand area into the yard and then make the whole right-hand area behind the fence now native plantings?
When we were out visiting, in the back corner of your yard, there was a hockey net.
Yes.
Yes.
Where
back
on
right.
this plot plan would that hockey net be, that's like, so I can get a sense of the geography?
It's in the curve? No, maybe
That kind of, yes. So there's the red angle. Yeah, that's where the hockey net is right now. Yes.
Okay. So it seemed like behind the hockey net, there was already a lot of vegetation grown up.
Yes, so part of that, the green speckled area, there's a little part of it in the front that is already natural vegetation. And then between that and where the fence would start, if you sort of come down on the picture a little bit, that's all currently grass. But it's technically wetlands. we just learned with this house project.
Is the purpose of the fence purely for the dog?
Yes. Does that? I mean, we would install, I think, privacy fence because we're doing, the red firm line, not the X's. We would do privacy fence, I think cedar, like 6 foot. So I guess the purpose of that would be to create an area there. We all put nice plants there, like a garden. But we wouldn't have done it if we didn't get the dog. Does that answer the question?
So is it a big dog? A better question is it gonna get big? And the reason I ask, I don't have a problem with dogs at all. I'm asking because we require space under the fence to allow wildlife to move around. And so I'm wondering if you have a small, a dog that's gonna stay small and might be trying to burrow out.
That's a great question. And I think my understanding was 3.5 inches from the ground. No,
Sure.
he'll be like 60 pounds-ish. And a leggy dog, jumper, so
Okay.
I'm thinking a taller fence, but, and also my understanding though is if it's chain link, it can go all the way down to the ground because there's area for wildlife to pass through. Is that?
It
true?
depends. The example I've heard us use many times, you think about rabbits, and whether they could, if they got in somehow, could they get out?
Mhm.
I guess a small baby rabbit could get out through the holes in the chain link, but I think I still would ask for the space underneath, so Brer Rabbit could get out if he had to.
Is that true of the other kind of fence we were considering is like black aluminum with the rods, which I think are 4.5 inches apart?
Well, Eleanor, you don't need to raise the fence all the way around. If you, to accommodate what Brian's saying, you could, I mean, so the topography of the ground may create these areas anyways.
Mhm.
And then your solid fence may have, it's, I guess the Wetlands Protection Act doesn't mind if the turtle or rabbit hops around for a while trying to look for an exit. But as long as there's one there to be found. So the thing about it is, I think that your privacy fence could have that 3.5 inches in it. And I'm not sure how much of this other spot is the chain length, but if you could let us, know that there is going to be at least 2 spots in that chain link area that's a little bit higher, that would probably help with Brian's, what Brian's request is.
Yeah, I'm a big rabbit lover, apparently.
And you were saying about the vertical black bars, that certainly has plenty of room for a rabbit to get out. But could a turtle get up and over the bottom shelf, or would you still need to have 3.5 inches for the turtle to get under that horizontal bar?
Yeah, those would have to be up too.
I think there were 2 different styles we were considering, and one has a horizontal bar and then just empty space that could be 3.5 inches above the ground. And the other one has, can't remember if it has a horizontal bar or not, but the vertical rods sort of touch the ground. And there are some size turtles I think that could get through there. But I guess my point is that I do think that either one of the aluminum fence styles has significant, again, it's like a 4.5
I
width.
think the bottom line is, what we're trying to achieve and why. So when it comes to picking your fence, just make it so there's some area that wildlife can get out.
Okay.
If you happen to trap a big snapping turtle in there, don't worry about it, don't do it yourself, but I don't know how we get in the first place. But we don't have to design it here and micromanage it, but it just needs to be space for the wildlife.
Okay.
Have we already approved the fence?
No, they're here tonight to approve the fence.
I will make a motion.
No, not there yet.
Would a wire in the ground be considered a permanent fixture?
You mean a dog fence?
Yeah. It's below the ground. It's not invasive.
No, I'm just trying to be, listen.
That's not what they're here. You can
Right.
suggest it, but that's not what they're
Yeah,
here.
that's
I,
not,
well,
Right.
that,
But I wouldn't consider that, that wouldn't even have gotten to you guys.
no. So, because those are usually buried underground anyway, so
That's
it's
what I'm
not,
saying.
not a structure. Anyway, so the third item you had on your list was, maybe you covered it, that was, plantings, and you look into not have the plantings. And
Just move the plantings.
so
Right.
would you move them or have fewer?
We may have more. I just want the area that's gonna be inside the fence now all to be able to be grass and yard for the kids to play.
They're eliminating-
Exactly. But then we'll make more planting over there. We used to have that be yard and they could run around in it.
Right.
But since we need to do the fence on the wetlands line and we're losing that yard anyway, I thought, well, let's,
Yeah, that's
fill
fine,
all that
that's
in.
fine. As long as you end up
Okay.
with more, I'm happy.
Okay.
The point is that up to the first 25 feet, we can dictate has to be a vegetated area with a certain size yard. We don't impose that. So as long as you end up with appropriate amount of vegetation, that's not going to be an issue for us, I would say. So that brings us to the question of the fence. So I'd like to consider all these three things as one, not do three independent views of it. So the question is, can this just be an administrative change? Or is it amended plan? Or is it a new NOI/whatever?
If we're considering all three at once, we need to have her come back with
Good
the
point.
answer from Ian Ainsley and the contractor of what they're gonna do instead of underground infiltration system, right? So I think, it would be good to continue this to the next meeting, give her a chance to come back with an answer from the engineer. And then we would vote on all these three things together, unless you're in a big hurry to put the dog fence in soon. If that's the case, we could divide the projects into separate things.
I appreciate that. And I guess the two things I'm thinking are, yes, well, I would love to have this fence done as soon as possible. But if there's a possibility, they're gonna need to have construction machinery driving in to dig trenches, then we can't have a fence there. So, it sounds like we have to consider, am I thinking about this right? Do we need to consider all three? Okay.
do we have a precedent of
You-
putting a fence on a 25-foot line?
2, 3,
don't.
whatever.
We have allowed fences in various.
Piecemeal is
places.
fine.
On the 25-foot line?
This is even on the wetland line.
Okay, so let's try and be accountable to the applicant's needs. So let's vote on the two we can vote on. And we'll deal with the infiltration of the roof runoff whenever we come back with an answer. So one condition I would like to have for what we've talked about even so far is if you could update the plan to show the fence and to be sure that the new planting area is clearly marked, so it'll be there for the future. Just submit it to Chuck. We don't have to look at it again, but just so the record is there.
So I think that's a good idea, but I think that typically a fence and a move like this, we would allow how I directed the applicant, which is you can draw on the plan because we see what's going on. We're just trying to save,
Yeah.
big expense kind of
Right,
thing.
right. I'm not saying a big
I can
expense.
see what's going on.
As long as we have something in writing
Yeah.
that people in the future can go back to when they're doing a COC and say, where's it supposed to be?
This is part of the file and Eleanor talked to me, I understood it, but I can see how you guys didn't. So I can make some additional notes on this plan. And when I put it into the file, they'll be there for whoever's,
As
gonna
long
look
as
in the
it's
future.
clear amongst us and Eleanor that when you're looking for the final certificate of compliance, whoever it is will be looking at this plan, whatever it ends up looking like, and trying to determine if the fence is where you said it was going to be. So
Right, so the as-built plan will pick up the fence and the new garden, and we'll just compare it to what we're looking at here on the screen, or.
so as
what
long
was
as the
on screen.
contractor knows he has to adhere to that.
Can I reword my question?
Sure.
Do we have a precedent of putting a fence on the wetland line?
We have a precedent of putting the fence on the edge of lawn. And allowing that,
On the wetland?
edge of lawn.
Edge of lawn.
Which in this case is the wetland line.
Well, I'm saying the wetland, screw the lawn. I'm saying,
So
we have a
so
precedent-
yes, there are cases where fences are right next to wetlands.
We have cases in town where we have driveways right next to
we
wetlands.
have done it on the wetland line.
Right next to it.
That's my question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is, yeah, so, you know, I think you're right. I mean, you know, some commissioners could get and say, hey, look, this is an area that doesn't work for them, but consistently in this town, we've tried to accommodate fences, no matter where they go. The rules are, don't cut down trees. If you're weaving through the forest, the commission has to look at it, but if it's on existing lawn, most likely you're gonna get a yes. Unless that lawn is so wet that, no, it's like just planted and filled like yesterday.
Yes.
So, it's yes.
Sorry, one additional point. So the filter sock, the erosion control, we noticed that it was actually flipped during the site visit. So it's not up against the property. It's
Oh.
actually close to what your proposed fence line is, which is inside that 25-foot zone. Was there a change made to where erosion control was placed on the backyard?
So I haven't seen it be flipped. Last time I went, there were stakes, every 4 feet or something upright.
What we noticed, it wasn't the stakes, but it was actually the sock itself was not up against the property as depicted in the plan, but it was actually up closer to where the
So
proposed
it
fence line
went
is.
across the back and then it came up towards the house and curved to the side of the property. Whereas in the plan, it showed running across the back and then curving outwardly
More or
to the
less.
side of the property.
So,
Yeah,
So that's why that curved part.
Chuck,
is
can you put
flipped
the
over.
plan back up so she can see what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, my understanding is that the sock goes right along that line.
Okay, yeah, so if you look at the back corner of the house where it says proposed rain barrel, the filter sock is supposed to be like 2 feet away from the house for like 5 or 10 feet coming in from that proposed rain barrel, back right corner. And it didn't seem to be that close to the house up there. Yeah, right there, Chuck.
Okay.
Those 3 points on that line,
So where
Mhm.
was it? I was more.
back closer to where the fence is being
fence line.
proposed.
Yeah.
So the erosion control is a moving target. And the contracts, I've moved it when it didn't look like it worked for the contractor. They're supposed to create enough space between their project and the erosion control to work out there. Sometimes it's moved and there might have been some action over on this corner. As long as there's erosion control in place and it's on the existing lawn and not crazy downstream or towards the back, I would think it would be fine. It looks like no matter where it is, it's gonna hug the project because the addition, we can see where it is right there. And I guess it's down gradient from the house to the wetlands. So I wouldn't think a move would be a bad thing, and it doesn't have to stay as per plan, but it does have to protect from erosion.
Which it does seem to be doing. There's no evidence of anything
Yeah.
beyond it.
Okay,
All right.
Okay.
Okay, on that note,
so do we need to vote, or is this just administrative approval? Or is that what we're voting, is whether to make it a minor plan change or administrative approval for the fence and the planting change? Right,
That's your decision.
yeah.
So we have an order of conditions already. This will be added to it and picked up at the as-built plan section. And this plan will be part of the COC application.
The decision rests on whether or not the change is significant to the interest of the act, to the wetlands. So they're adding a fence. They're having the same or more plantings, just in a different area, and we're not deciding yet on the infiltration. Those two things, my opinion would be that they're insignificant to the interests of the act. So I would be okay with it being administrative approval, especially if we have an updated
You
plan.
were ready to make the motion. Do you want to make this motion?
I will make a motion for administrative approval, or make a motion.
Make a motion that to authorize Chuck to make the decision on the zone. He's administrator.
You can mention the two items.
Override that and make a motion to allow the fence as long as it has that access for your turtles and squirrels to easily pass through and out.
Rabbits.
As well as rabbits. And a motion to allow her to change her planting plan from her initial spot to behind the fence.
Yeah, as per this plan, I would just reference
Per
this.
that plan.
Yeah,
And the motion would then be that we would allow that as a minor plan change. That's one motion you could make, or we would allow it as administrative approval by Chuck, and take your pick.
I'll make a motion to have it as a minor,
Plan change.
plan change. You're shaking your head.
I mean, my opinion is it's an administrative decision.
Okay, I will make it.
so what you want to withdraw
I want to
that?
withdraw my motion.
So-
And make the motion that it's an administrative decision.
Yeah, so the point, just to, I don't expect to go through this a bunch of times, we have a lot of smart people here, but we have a piece of paper that permit, we don't need an additional permit. If I just tell them yes and review it as part of my normal review on all these properties, it should be fine. So administratively, this being approved seems to be the best way to go.
That's sort of the lowest level.
Okay.
Minor plan change is the.
No,
upper
yeah,
level.
it's confusing.
Okay, I want to make more decision.
Yeah, I just appreciate jumping and making a motion. Anybody want to
Okay,
second that?
I'll second his motion for administrative approval.
Sure.
Sure, I fainted.
Favor.
Okay,
This is for the fence and the plantings.
Yes.
yes.
Oh, I didn't.
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Michelle in favor. Rick Keo in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Brian Bowe's in favor. Okay, thank you. Sorry for dragging this out.
Thank you very much. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Wow.
Who went to 15 Carriage Lane?
We did.
You and Brian? Oh, Walter, you have to tell it. This is your turn to.
Sure, Walter, go ahead.
I have to remember where we were.
Carol's Lane.
Yeah, that was a beautiful place.
With a steep hill.
Lots of plantings above and beyond what was called for. The only, not negative, the only difference was there was a spruce in the far right-hand corner that was supposed to be planted, but they have so many other plants that were there. I think it more than easily offsets. There was crushed stone around the pool, which was required. The only question was along the, looking at the house, the left side fence on the other people's property, it was like 6 foot cleared, which was a little bit bizarre. But no, the house looks great. I think they've done a good job of the plantings. Nothing looked like it was dying, looked like it was all thriving.
Did you have an opportunity to talk to the homeowner?
No.
Okay, so this was just a request for determination of applicability for a deck and a fence, was that it? Deck and a fence? And,
I think
Um,
the fence might have existed already. I think it was the swimming pool and the deck.
there, yeah, the
Oh,
above
yeah.
ground pool and the deck, there you go. And so there was a requirement for these plantings and, I think it's Kate had, Devama asked me to, have the commission go out there and, review. And we usually don't review determinations of applicability when they're finished, as a commission. But, this time it seemed important and, so I'm glad that I was only asked if you talked to the homeowner to try to understand what they wanted.
We rang the
uh,
bell, but.
and
nobody answered.
from us. I'll reach out tomorrow and just say the commission agrees that the project's complete and you've done a great job.
So my summary would be, they have done a great job. The plantings are not exactly what was in the planting plan, but they have reasonable substitutions and the overall scenario, it's fine. It's in good shape. Most of the plants are quite healthy.
Yeah, one example of a substitution is the white spruce is not missing, it's just a river birch instead.
Hmm,
So there is a tree there, it's just not the tree that was on the original plant.
Okay,
And they have some additional Ilex glabra, which is that inkberry holly, I think.
okay.
And we did notice they've put in a couple of non-native species. There's something that seems to be a lilac in there. So it's in addition to all the native plantings they did put in. There's also a trampoline in more or less the 25-foot zone. So I would say when the kids have outgrown the trampoline, they should move the trampoline and, or get rid of the trampoline and not have it in the
that's a
zone of
request.
natural
It can be a
vegetation.
condition. It's an RDA, so.
Yeah. So just
I'll
when
just
he's
mention it.
talking to them,
Yeah.
you know, trampolines don't really belong in ZNVs.
Okay.
So that's all my comments on it.
Okay. Nothing else required there. All right, so now the next topic is our policy on accepting land donations. So the reason this came up is that we recently accepted a land donation near the high school. What's that street again?
It's Hillside, yeah.
Side, yeah, sorry. And
When,
I'll look at
starts with a W.
I thought it was,
West side goes down the hill. This is
Okay, so-
around
so
the
he'll-
Waverly.
Waverly. Okay,
here we go.
so the bottom line is, we accepted it quite a while ago. It was held up because it turns out there was a shed that was actually on what would become our new property. And so that had to be moved first. That has finally been moved, at which point we were moving forward with accepting the property. Verbally, that had happened, although it hasn't been registered or anything yet. And then a windstorm happened and some trees fell from that property onto the donator's property. And the donator would like the town to take care of those trees.
It actually didn't happen that way. They,
So
but, no, I just want to make sure that, I don't want to make it sound like the person that was living next to, so this person that was living next to the house originally had the shed property, only called up and inquired. She said, look, a tree fell on our property from what she believes had been land that was supposed to be donated to the town. And she wondered if it was that had happened yet, or if it was something that she needed to take care of. And I said, I believe that that has happened, but to reach out to the forestry department. And I reached out to the forestry department myself and just let them know that this was coming and let them know that this was a newly acquired piece of property. And I think Brian can take it from there.
All right, so at that point, the tree warden raised the question as to in the future, he felt that he should have been notified and had some sort of input onto our accepting the property or not, based on the condition of the trees and hence what work might be incumbent on him in the future for the status of the trees. And so we decided that we would write a letter to the town capturing our thinking, our position on this. That's the letter, the draft letter that Chuck sent around to the commission for review. And that's what we're here to either amend or vote on or what have you. But to summarize our position, there's like 4 key points. The first is, as a precedent, we always try to accept land that's donated, being donated. They're not making any more. You know, Reading has less and less open space available, and it's incumbent on us to acquire at least an interest in the land, if not the land itself, to protect it, preserve it, and what have you. This actually, if you read section HC, have you ever done that? It's relatively short, although it's tiny print, but basically that's where the establishment of conservation commissions come from in the state law. It says, if a town establishes a conservation commission, here's the powers and authorities and what the point of it is. And one of the things it emphasizes is acquiring and preserving natural resources. In there, it also says that if we have a plan, as much as possible, it should align with the town's master plan. You look at the town's master plan, the second bullet in the list of themes for their vision is preserve and protect open space and natural resources. So again, it's in line with the town master plan as well. The next thing is that going by precedent, we have never had to reach out to another department like that to get approval. Yes, when we accept land, it's at the approval of the select board. It's not at the approval of forestry or anybody else. So this is asking to establish a new precedent for no reason. Additionally, and I just learned this myself a little while ago, back when the town manager was Bob LeLacheur, he actually instituted an annual amount of $7,000 to go against the forestry division's budget to cover conservation tree related expenses. That's never been, we've never heard anything otherwise. So we're going under the understanding that that money is still being allocated. And yes, I recognize that money that's not used doesn't roll over to the following year. At the same time, we haven't had a need to involve the tree warden very much in our tree problems of recently. So I'm sure that money wasn't given back, so it was spent for whatever his needs are. I don't have a problem with that, but you know, at this point, our accepting a donation can't be tied to a different department's labor situation. It has to be whatever the goals and purposes we have.
Why is the tree warden involved in this? It's not on public ways. It's not on public land.
Because it fell from it fell from what becomes conservation land, and the tree warden handles conservation land to a certain extent.
There is a tree removal policy if a tree falls from conservation land onto private property, we cut off the part on private property and take it away, so we're not impacting the private property with our tree.
And what's on conservation land stays in there.
Yeah. So conservation is considered to be public grounds, in other words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is public on a different
No,
jurisdiction.
I'm just
but it's
reading
public.
the responsibilities of the tree warden.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, that came up. And when that came up and was pointed out to the tree warden, that's when the Bob LaLacheur added the money to his tree account. I think we were using or requesting some trees a lot during that time. I don't think we've requested anything in the last couple of years. a lot of stuff comes from Trails Committee. There's a lot of requests there, but it's not through conservation, and it's really not the same bucket. Trails is its own group. They have their own money, they have their own requests, and I think how DPW handles them is, you know, different from how they handle the Conservation Commission. This, you know, there wasn't, the money was allocated for the understanding, I believe that this may have been missed. And, oh yeah, you have to take care of conservation land also. And so that's why the money was put in there. Like I said, many times, I asked Bob if I could be in charge of that money and manage, you know,
That's not
our land.
germane to the
And,
point.
it went to Mike Hannaford, but that question did come up. And I have one more thing. Right here, we received this piece of land. This was 0 Haverhill Street. We received this piece of land from the owner that bought 0 Haverhill Street. This was a donation to the Conservation Commission. This is a big piece of property. And I asked the DPW on this one, before we get it, do you want to review it? I didn't ask Mike Hannaford. I didn't ask the Forestry Department. I asked Jane Kinsella, and she said no. She said that wasn't how they do it. And so it's really never come up since then. So the Conservation Commission got all this land here and it didn't even come up. So
So given that context, what thoughts, if any, do you have on the letter that was sent around to you folks?
So really, the intent of the letter is to ensure that the Conservation Commission and the Select Board only has jurisdiction.
it's kind of
on
like
this
to
tree.
define our regulations and what our procedures are.
Exactly, it's
Just
our,
read from
it's
it.
our policy when it comes to accepting proposed land donations. The one condition that's been placed on us recently by town council is the one that we have to get a piece of property that's going to be donated, we have to get it surveyed ahead of time. All right, so that's a new restriction that was put on by the town council, but that's the only requirement there is above and beyond approval from the select board.
So we would accept land without doing a survey, or with doing a survey?
We have to do a survey.
You would do a survey.
We have to do a
And
survey.
what does the survey contain?
It
Tells exactly where the boundaries
Where
are.
the boundaries are?
it avoids any future boundary disputes.
Does it mark which trees are on that property by any chance, like similar to what we see with property?
I don't know if they stake it out even, I don't know. Not a
It's
requirement.
just a boundary survey.
I remember we had that done for the property that was donated on Sanborn Lane.
Mhm.
And we had it done for Waverly. Were there any earlier than that? Or
No,
those the only
it
two
was
that
new
received, right?
at that point.
I think Sanborn was the first one, that's where she issued the
And
requirement.
through that survey, they identified the shed that was on
Waverly.
this piece of property that was going to be on conservation land. And it's just easier to know these things in advance. And so that's why the survey. was
And so
requested.
we didn't have any issue about surveying the tree condition of the piece of property that was donated at Sanborn.
No,
No,
So
there's-
we
there's-
received that
There
land
has never
without,
been precedent
issue.
for surveying status of trees on land to be donated.
So if, like hypothetically, if this wasn't a shed, but maybe a detached unit that was on the property where people would be living in it, and that tree fell on that detached unit on someone's private property from public land, but we accepted that public land as a land donation or trust previously, like 2 years prior, we would have no ability, or would the town be held accountable for that tree falling on someone's unit? But like 2 years prior, that tree was also probably in poor condition, could have already damaged that property. Like, I'm just trying to
I
think
don't
of,
like hypotheticals.
Well, that's fair. So this crushed
I mean,
a.
reality,
shed,
the
correct?
reality, you said it could have
It
been.
didn't crush a shed.
It didn't crush a shed.
No,
It crushed nothing.
the
just
survey, the survey turned up that there was a shed, hence
Okay.
it had to be moved.
Okay, got it.
The only issue here is a tree fell from conservation property onto private property.
Mhm.
Our policy says that the town will take care of the piece that's on the private property,
Mhm.
leaving the remnant on conservation land where it fell. So,
That's not our, well, that's a policy we agree to, but I think
true.
the tree warden, you know, how he treats the trees that are on the conservation land or public land and their encroachment onto private land is his decisions. You
Yeah,
know,
but we worked that whole policy out back when I was first on the commission, so we're talking 2020 or so.
Mhm.
The whole question of if the tree is on private property and falls onto conservation land. if
as
the
far
tree
as I
is
know,
conservation,
one tree fell and they, according to the policy, no one informed me of what actually happened out there. According to the policy, they cut it at the property line, took away what was on the private property and cleaned that up and left the rest on conservation land.
And this is at Waverly you're talking about.
That's at Waverly. That's what I would have expected to happen.
Based on our policy.
Yeah,
And the previous time that policy had to be enacted was 2020, when we actually nailed down the policy.
no,
That was
no,
on
it's used
Mill
all the
Street.
time. It's pretty clear. Mike understands where he's at and he understands where I'm at and we reach out to each other when needed. It's a pretty clear policy.
Okay, so he's done a number of trees along the way that I just never heard about because it never was an issue.
Yeah.
Got it.
That's an automatic response.
I mean, it's a very active, forestry department, and when it comes into conservation area, they'll reach out to me or they'll follow that policy.
So this is just clarifying what our policy is on accepting donations.
Mhm.
Doesn't change the tree policy one iota.
Understood.
So,
And you're looking for our input on this.
yeah, I mean, do you want to change any words? Do you want to bless it as it is? Do you want to bring it here and start a bonfire?
I would like to, possibly be the, devil's advocate here and say, I think it might be courteous of us to notify the forestry department when we are planning to accept a donation, so they're aware of it, but I don't think they
Okay,
should be
but,
able to
but
stop
to
us
what
from
end?
doing it.
Say we notified them, I'm doing a
Mhm.
hypothetical. Say we notified them and somebody went and inspected and had pushback, then what?
Mhm.
I mean, our goal is if there's land available, you want it.
Maybe they would know that there are trees they should trim or cut down that are hazard trees that are now our responsibility. I'm not saying we would let them tell us we can't take the donation, but maybe they would have recognized this tree as having a giant rotten spot at the bottom, and it might be better to get rid of this hazardous tree before it fell on somebody's yard, rather than
It's
after.
like an assessment, kind of take the liability off us.
It doesn't,
Maybe.
yeah,
Just a suggestion.
Yeah.
You don't have to listen to me, but that, you asked our opinion. That's what I would say, is it might be courteous to let the forestry department know.
Did you read the letter?
doing that. No?
Yeah, because there's a section in there that mentions working with the forestry department.
Okay, good. Then I'm happy. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't remember when that came out. I don't remember.
I think the
seeing
whole point is like, we'll work with the
Is with
forestry
the,
department, but I think the Conservation Commission is really worried about picking up land and also creating space around any wetlands to give it additional protection. Now, if the select board said no, what can we do about it? But I don't think we should get, I mean, my personal thought is that it just, you know, I don't know, my personal thought would be, we really haven't got too much land for this to really make a big difference over the many years of the Wetlands Protection Act being around.
Although I will point out, we are now over 65 pieces of property and almost 1,000 acres. That's not nothing. But who's counting?
So I just want to keep going with this meeting because there wasn't really much on the agenda and we're still here.
So I'd like to vote to have Chuck send this letter. If I could have a motion to that effect, that'd be helpful.
Oh, who am I sending it to?
Coming from you, right?
Yeah,
It's from.
It's from
yeah,
you.
Right.
Sent by
So
you.
the two,
yeah, I think you would think the town manager and the select board, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of any other place to do it.
Yeah, so that's what I'll do.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, town manager includes the assistant town
I know,
manager.
I know. No, I wasn't cutting anybody out. I was just saying not
All right,
wider than that.
I'll review it. And if I have any comments, I'll send it back to you, but we have permission to send it out from the commission.
Yes,
Does that need a vote?
Yeah,
okay.
Okay, I move that you send the letter.
Walter Talbot seconds that motion.
Chirag Silica.
He said favor, just.
Walter
Yes,
Talbot's-
in favor.
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Lots more in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor. Okay. Next item, violation notices. The only one here we have here is 445 Pearl Street. Martha. Read us in.
Okay, we went to check out the progress that Mike Rivers has been making at reconstructing the stream on 445 Pearl Street. And the bank closest to his house, he has made some good progress on, but that bank on the southern side of the stream, the half of that bank that's closest to the house has been shaped, seeded, loamed, has coir log at the bottom and river stone at the bottom of the stream.
and it's in the correct position. And,
Seems to be pretty good.
okay,
On the opposite side of the stream, the bank has been carved back to be the right height, but the loam and the seeding has not happened, but there's a coir log at the bottom on that side. However, as you move from the house toward the street, there's an enormous pile of dirt filling the valley that is the stream bed. So that all the dirt that was carved off the far banks or the downstream banks seems to have been piled up in the stream bed, completely blocking the stream. And if you look upstream toward the street from there, there's a depression at the bottom of the culvert that clearly had water in it at some point. But there's no place for the water to go as it comes out of that culvert because it's hitting a 4-foot wide, 6-foot tall dam. So he has work to be done to complete this project. And the coir logs at the bottom are fairly far north, so that stream is going to have to curve to get to the culvert from where the coir log and gravel bed are at the moment. Anybody else have more information?
While we're there, a neighbor came over and said that he'd been told that Mr. Rivers planned on trucking out much of that material that's forming the obstacle.
I knew we had heard that from somewhere. I forgot it was the next door neighbor.
Yeah, it's tough. The part that he's done, he has shaped it according to the plan. I mean, I didn't measure the slopes, but they looked to be the 1.5 to 1 and the 2 to 1 that the plan calls out. Yes, there's stuff to fill in on the far side, the north side. The question, the issue is, when is he going to get to the rest of it? And I will say, I had no idea that putting in a blockage was part of the approach for it. I'm not a construction engineer. I do not know. I did not expect that. Perhaps it had to be done to keep the water out, to allow him to do the constructing of the more downstream part of it. I just don't have that expertise, but I was surprised.
Is he could he be excavating from that dam, like to reach the opposite side without going on the neighbor's property? By any chance?
So our understanding was
was
that
firmly
he,
packed in.
he rented some piece of equipment that had a long enough reach that he did it from the south side.
The south side bank.
Right. I don't know that I would drive out onto.
No, I was just looking at that dam. It was pretty firmly packed in. I thought it was actually the existing ground. You have more experience with it, but from what I saw.
So,
He also had at least reconditioned the section on the north side between the dam and the culvert, because it was loam and vinca ground cover matching the ground cover that was there already. So again, I'm not the engineer in this either, but it seems like he's about 20% done with the project.
yeah.
And a couple of big rectangular prisms
Thank
of
you.
granite on the far slope. The northern slope closer to the culvert, which I don't recall seeing there before.
No, I was thinking that that might be intended to deflect current from undercutting the bank, but I also don't remember those being there originally.
They look kind of haphazard.
So at this point, I think he has to get the work done. He's got to get that obstacle out of the way as soon as possible.
Tomorrow should be interesting.
Yeah, I am gonna swing by.
Yeah, so if there's a problem, call me. We gotta get the DPW involved. They should have been involved last Monday, whenever you saw this obstruction. But maybe it's been fixed by now. I haven't been told about this. I'm hearing it now, but you know, that's gonna back up upstream. So we would, if he's not there to fix it, have to get the DPW involved. So.
Okay. Notes, minutes for, Chuck, I skipped over your administrative report.
So administrative report, so the MBT, Matera Cabin, so we had a staff meeting on Matera Cabin, and we reviewed the engineer's report on the code, getting the cabin back into code compliance. We have made comments on that sheet. There was several options. Some of them were further away than others, but the ones that we could probably attain quickly or quick enough seems to be an occupancy of 20 people. And so repairs have to happen, things have to be upgraded, and we're going through that process now to find out what's going on and who's going to take that responsibility and how it's going to happen. And there is an option that some of these things can be done through a volunteer effort. You know, so under review, and there's the need for what seemed to be a slop sink and a bubbler. And even though it has a sink and a kitchenette, that's not considered in this situation, qualified to get a glass of water out of under the rules, which is mainly with our building commissioner who understands those rules. So we have options for a bubbler, like a normal one like you would see here, or you can just get like one of those Poland Springs situations, standalone unit. That he said that works also. And the slop sink is just where would that go?
And would 20 handle all of the rentals we typically do?
No,
Roughly how many would it cover?
I think it would cover a lot of the birthday parties and functions that recreation does. It might be close on some of the recreation ones, like when they do like a Lego
Right.
situation or a cooking situation. I think they're well attended. It won't cover the Ipswich River Watershed Association. It won't cover Tufts University. These are the problems that are coming up in the land summit that we do. It wouldn't cover that either. So I think that the thought, and thanks to Matt and Jane, the thought is now is like, what's the low hanging fruit? What can we do to get it open quickly, and then look at next steps from there. So it looks like a capacity of 30 is the next step up, somewhere in that area, and that would probably be better for the historical use of the cabin.
Do you have a rough sense of what that is at first step financially?
That first step financially, I do not.
What was the previous capacity?
So the previous capacity, and this is, the previous capacity was set. I had walked through with the building inspector back in the day when I first got here, probably 2013. And we came up with a number like 30 to 40. And I think it's on the website right now, whatever it says. This was what we came up with. The building inspector doesn't remember that, and there was no notes, so that doesn't matter. So,
Not right.
and we had been going with that. So we had been going with, we've never had a huge group there. It's never come up, and so we were very comfortable accepting, 25, 30 people for whatever their functions were. And those don't usually come up much either. Most functions are a birthday party of about 12 children, 5 to 6 adults.
What about the use of the garage, but for trails, storage wise, any impact from the initial report as to whether or not trails would still be able to use that garage for?
Well, we'll all still, the cabin and the garage are all still usable. We just have to fix them up first. And so it looks like the cabin, there's a couple questions, oddly enough, the garage wasn't in the report. But our building commissioner had some questions, and he sent those off, and we're waiting for a reply. It looks like the garage would need a fire rated ceiling, which is just another, either fix the holes that exist there now or 5/8 sheetrock on the ceiling. And not, as someone said that the problems or the repairs aren't impossible to do. They're reasonable. So, but you only get to that level 20, right? So, but for the Trails Committee, they would be able to use their garage. They don't go in there and do anything except walk in, grab stuff, and leave. It's not like a shop. So, but that's not how they do things. What I found out in this process is you have to, the code that they're going to use is if they're in there. So we have to protect it as if they're using it as a shop or using it as a more of a full-time situation, not just going in and grabbing stuff and leaving. And the same thing with the school was a problem. They said they were only going to go in and use the bathrooms, but no, you have to think about it as all year, and you have to think about it as all of them there at once. So I think we're on the right track. And I believe we'll probably have another meeting next week at some time or the early following week, and then have some real information for the
So
commission.
when you say volunteers could do much of at least the first tier of work, is that volunteers waiting until next summer and then
No, that's
next step people, or?
that's people want to lend a hand. That's me and whoever I can have help. So some of the stuff on the inside would be pulling down the paneling because that's not fire rated. And then those holes need to be patched and spackled and paint those walls wherever those panelings are. There's some door knobs that are just knobs. Those have to be lever handles. Those can be replaced. Those are volunteer work. We're trying to spend the money on the things that people can't just go ahead and do. Is there molding there that's a problem? Do we need to remove that molding?
So is there talk about where money might come from to do the things that people volunteers?
We want to find out what we're talking about right now.
So what's the process for getting a financial estimate?
So this company would be able to give us an estimate on it. I don't think it would be realistic because I think they wouldn't factor in volunteers could do some stuff. But if they itemize it, it would be handy. Again, it's the slop sink, it's the bubbler, it's the access path between the entrance. There's some grading issues in there that we don't know what that meant. It was kind of vague. And
Is this kind of work that facilities could do?
I'm not sure. All those decisions are up to others. I offered, what I was able to do is identify a few things and say, I think I can get volunteers to help me with this. And so that's not going to open the cabin, but that's going to at least take that amount of money off. We have to pay prevailing rate wage and all that. So this is going to be at least cheap for some of that stuff there.
Okay, what else you got?
MBTA. So I received the notice of intent for the MBTA. And it came in today, first electronically, and we got that up on the website quickly and alerted Matt and Jane and Andrew McNichol that it was here. I believe Matt reached out to the group of abutters and let them know. And I know that one of them came in for a paper copy, and I was happy to provide that. So that's in. There'll be a site visit coming up on the 6th, and our meeting is on the 8th. So at 9 o'clock on the 6th, we'll be meeting by Vine Street in that parking lot and doing the same walk we did the last time for you. Not here, we're going to walk way up to
Okay, so let's
Morgan.
let's nail down our attendance for that meeting, plus the availability of hard hats. I believe, Joe, you will be there and you have a lid. Walter will be there and needs a lid. I will be there and I need a hat. Martha will be there and needs a hat. These two gentlemen will be there. One hat is needed.
No game time decision.
I know. And Sherrod cannot be there, and she doesn't need a hat.
So what does that come to? 4 hats and 6?
6 attendees and 4 hats.
4 hats. So we need 2 more hats. And that's what
Why 2 more hats?
6 attendees and 4 hats is what we have.
So we need
Two
4 hats.
people
though.
don't need hats. They already have hats. 4 people need hats.
Need hats. Okay.
Oh, I see what you say. Yes.
And this was at 0 Vine Street, so you're all the way down near the station. You started and walked up.
We parked in the parking lot to the right of Woburn Street along the track.
And Chuck,
Mhm.
it was always impossible for me to find the right hard hat when I was working. I had to order one specially. I have a 3XL head.
I'm not
You
gonna
thought
say
this very
anything.
fast.
There's nothing in it, but that's what I had.
Wait a minute.
So-
You want me to make a special request?
Yes, otherwise, you know, the little tightener inside, I always had to loosen it up, so it was worthless.
Well. It's not showing there. Okay, noted. So that you said that's 9 o'clock on the 6th of October.
Yeah, so, that brings up my next question. There's 3 site visits that you would have done that day. So we want to go and take this walk, and then we want to go to the depot and look at the area where the train usually stops, just to understand like what happens in 600 feet. You know, I think we can get that along the depot area and not, you know, where people commonly walk. So it's okay for us to be there. And just, I'm looking for oil drifts, but I wanted everyone to go there. So we're gonna go to 2 places that day. Small Lane is on our agenda at the next meeting. And I was looking for this address and I haven't found it yet. And there's another one also that's on. Let me get the street before I start guessing. Dustin Road. That's off Lowell Street heading out to the highway from the town hall. So we have 24 Dustin, which is a new house, tear down, new house. And we have 0 Small Lane, and 0 Small Lane is probably not going to be one meeting. But a lot of commissioners haven't been there.
I think probably most haven't.
So it might be something where you want to make sure that everyone can go. So maybe we're talking Saturday or something like that.
So since we can't go Monday the 6th, which is our typical day, is there any day that week, any morning that week that you could go on a site visit or 2?
I think the best I got for me is the 6th, just for the MBTA, and I gotta go to work.
Okay, but the 6th could take a while.
I could do my best, but.
Yeah, because we're meeting, walking out the length, walking back, and then going to look at the station. Even if you skip the station.
You can skip the
it's
station
still
and
out.
get there on your own, you know.
I was gonna suggest,
One last thought, and they do want us to stay together. It's not like if you went out, you could head back on your own. Because, you know, they'll stop traffic for a while, but they want us to stay together.
well,
Sorry.
that's what I was wondering. We get so close to Willow Street. Could we park a car at Willow Street?
Just pop
And-
out.
And, no, and like, if 2 of us drove to Willow Street, left a car, drove around to the other end, then when we walked down to Willow Street, we could all just climb in that car at Willow Street and drive back and not have to walk both lengths of the track. I remember it seemed like we didn't get much out of the walking back in the snow on our site visit last
The
time.
good news, we were walking with the wind on the way back.
I mean, I'll have my vehicle at my house, so. it's-
Did I ever tell you that I walked up Mount Washington, or I hiked Mount Washington with my sister? And we got to the top. She was done. She's like, I'm taking the train down. And she goes, looking at me like, are you coming? I'm like, there's no way. I'm not walking back down again, because I'm gonna have to do this whole thing again if I don't walk back up and walk all the way back down again. So I'm not getting in the car at Willow Street.
Good.
You don't have to.
There wouldn't have been room for you anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
But does we all have to stay together?
I don't know. Well, let me ask.
Okay,
I,
They may
could
not
some
want
of us
to go
bail
back.
at Willow Street and come back not on foot? That's my question.
yeah, maybe they could get an accommodation. One of those, I don't even know what those are called, but
Hand
yeah,
cars.
back in one of those things,
Hand cars. Hand cars.
a hand cart. I will talk about Willow Street. you know, all joking aside, but, I'm sure that's not an easy yes, but I'll check.
Yeah, the only good news is those people would be off the line sooner. So they wouldn't be blocking the opening of the line, but
But we wouldn't have escorts.
yes, that is the concern.
No, the escorts have to walk you up there too. They're gonna have to walk you
Yeah.
all the way up to Willow Street.
Well, they don't have to ride in our car though, they can walk back.
Okay,
Just a question.
Yeah,
Because,
okay.
you know, that's when we were
So-
out there last time, it seemed like we walked 90% of the way to Willow Street and
Yeah,
then had to
I-
walk
I
all the way
understand.
back. again.
So as far as picking a date for the last two visits that week, could anybody make it Wednesday morning before our meeting,
The same day as the meeting.
same day as the meeting?
Yes. I think. 10-8, right?
Yes.
you're gonna go to Small Lane on the same day as the meeting? I'm not really concerned about you two going to Small Lane. Have you been there before, Walter? These three should get together and go there on a weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I've already done the walk for the train, so I'm pretty
Yeah,
comfortable
but
with that.
have you been to Small Lane?
No, I have not. So
I
that
can meet you also on a weekend and
So Saturday the
something.
4th, would that work?
I'm in Delaware, so that would be no.
Just commute. Are you there all weekend?
Yeah.
Could work for me, first thing in the morning.
Well, as you said, it's not gonna be a meeting hearing. So
Does the following weekend
About the
work
11th.
for you?
I'm gone like 4 weekends in a row.
Okay,
After
so
that. Yeah,
we should plan
unfortunately, Yeah,
not to have you there.
yeah,
because it seems
just
like-
plan on me not
Okay.
being there, and
Yeah,
I'll
just
try
deal
to
with
get
these
there the
two,
best I
see when
can.
they're
So what
available.
about you two, Rick and Joe? Could you do it on the 4th?
After 10.
Really?
I got soccer, so it's like, it's 8:30,
What time?
8:30 to
No.
10:30.
Oh, I thought you said 8:30, I was all yes for that one.
No, I can't make it at 8:30. I said I'm free after 10.
What about Sunday afternoon, the 5th?
What time can you
Not
do
all
Saturday?
sure.
What time can you do Saturday?
I said after 10 a.m. on Saturday.
Was it 10?
Yeah.
Do 10.
Okay, so I'll be there with you,
Yeah.
whether you like it or not. And we'll do Small Lane and then whatever the other one he said,
Dustin,
You
Dustin.
can FaceTime.
okay.
I'll be around,
Send me a
just
reminder.
I won't be in.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
state.
we'll hold the phone
Yeah,
out. and
Show me,
go,
at least I'll have an idea.
Tim, do you
what
see
it is.
this? Okay, so I'll send out a text or whatever saying for the three of us, Saturday the 4th at 10 a.m. Small Lane. You know what Small Lane is? Okay,
It's off,
yeah, it's
It's
near,
near
it's off Charles Street.
right, and so it's a dead end, it's a cul-de-sac. So you just park along the road to the, on the right-hand side. That's easy, plenty of parking, no concerns about traffic.
All right.
I could walk that through the woods.
So I'm not gonna be available Saturday, the 4th, and I wanna go see Dustin Road. And we won't be seeing Dustin Road on the 6th,
Send me the,
so I will go see Dustin Road some other time.
for the next
I thought we were going to the 8th.
3 months.
That's my question. Are we doing Dustin Road on the 8th?
We hadn't agreed to that.
Trees.
I asked him and we went off to the
But
weekend.
Walter and I could do Dustin Road on the 8th.
Yes.
Okay. What time you wanna do that? If you and I are going
Oh,
to
just the
Dustin
two of
Road,
us?
I
Sure.
don't know if anybody else is going to Dustin Road, but you and I could go.
Well, but that's also small. 10-8 was Dustin and small.
Okay, I
But-
can do both of those on 10/8.
But you've been to Small, and definitely Martha's been to Small multiple times.
Right.
So you only have to go to Dustin, because that's the only new one for you
Okay.
two.
Fair enough. Good. Even better.
If you want to go to Small for old time's sake, be my
I always
guest.
go small.
Fair enough.
Shall we
Okay,
do 9 AM on the 8th?
Sure.
so you're all set, we're all set, you're on the picture, and we're all set for the MBTA on the 6th.
24 Dustin.
Before we go to the next item, I didn't get this on the agenda, but we had talked about it, that we're gonna do two things. We wanna appoint Joe or discuss Joe as being our liaison for the MBTA process. And so that means that Joe will be keeping himself up to date. He'll go to as many meetings as he can. It's a big responsibility, and they will report back to the Conservation Commission. You know, here we are having the permit. Most of the meetings are right here with us anyways, but there might be something else, like a select board meeting, which I think is being planned.
Now, just to talk about it, would we expect Joe to tell us what the abutters group is planning? I would think not, unless they wanted to express it publicly. Not looking for inside baseball.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume it's whatever shared during public meeting.
Something like that.
So for
yeah.
example, like the
I just
section on
wanted
the
it
15th.
on the record that we're not trying to insider trading. That's the only analogy I can think of.
Correct.
We're not doing that.
It would
Okay.
be the sentiment that's shared by the public
Yeah,
during
and
those meetings.
If you
General
hear
update.
something good that makes sense, bring it back to us, all right? No, I
Yes, of
mean,
course.
like, something we haven't thought of, you know, and I'm not, surprised. I know Joker a lot, but I meant environmentally good, something we haven't thought of. You know, we want to hear that stuff.
Yeah.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, then can I have a motion for us to put Joe into that enviable position?
I'll make a motion to put Joe as the liaison to the MBTA discussion.
Walter Talbot seconds that motion.
Chirag Stalekar in favor.
Talbot's in favor?
Tim Michelle in favor.
Rick Hugh in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Brian Bow in favor. Bless you, my son.
You're,
And
you're
We
now
should,
alone.
we're gonna kick that off with his first report.
Just quick, I think we covered most of it, but so the MBTA, they conducted two public meetings. One was Tuesday, September 9th, and then Monday, September 15th. This was after the two meetings held with the Reading delegation and Reading Fire and Police Chiefs in late July, early August. So the September 9th meeting was held with mostly the rail abutters from Vine and Hancock Street. And this meeting was formally requested by residents and the town manager for several months following the previous hearings with the MBTA back in late February 2025. The September 15th meeting, which some of us attended virtually, it was a hybrid session, and it was also at the Reading Public Library. They discussed the scope of the MBTA's broader rail modernization program, a general overview of the services enabled by the construction of this turn track, north of Reading Depot, inside of Millet's Homes in Morgan. And then there was also additional detail shared around sound studies, emission studies, and traffic studies conducted since the previous NOI was rescinded without prejudice in February of 2025. Most of the residents and members of the public were able to ask questions specific to representatives of the MBTA around benefits, concerns, and the scope of the proposal. I would encourage that any members that didn't attend the September 15th session watch the RCTV replay, just to kind of better understand what aspects of the proposal might not be within the scope of our NOI that's in front of us. And then, yes, we have our site visit coming up on October 6th. And I believe there is a select board presentation being prepared by the MBTA for October 7th, although I don't believe that's been confirmed yet by Matt. It's been
Right.
requested, so.
Yeah, I know they want to, I know the select board wants them there. It seems like they really created a spot where conservation's on Wednesday and on Tuesday nights, the only select board meeting that they could go to. So unfortunately, that is what it is. Yeah, I don't have any more information. I think that other than having a discussion this afternoon with the engineer when he dropped up the application, but it was mostly about stormwater items, which are not really part of this. We just got into it because he's a stormwater engineer also. So
Have you distributed the NOI to everybody?
so electronically, Martha, if you wait around, if you walk back, I'll give you your hard copy, but it's already on the website.
Good.
along with all of the rest of our upcoming meetings. The stuff, 24 Dustin's there and 0 Small Lane is
Is,
up already.
is the butter notification letters being prepared? Is there a list identified? So I think in the previous NOI, there was a list of addresses.
Absolutely. In this NOI, there's a list of addresses. I still have to write the legal notice. I'll do that tomorrow. They have all of next week almost to get it out, but that'll be with them tomorrow, and they'll send that out when they can to the list of abutters. So the list is also part of the packet. So if you go to the website and download the notice of intent, inside of that is everyone who's getting a legal notice.
I think that's
Public comment.
Yeah, somebody probably wants to make a remark, but they put it in the chat, but you might want to.
So do we,
To be called on.
well, it's, we don't have an opportunity to do that during this section of our meeting, but we can turn to these things afterwards. But if someone wanted to read it, I didn't see it. So if someone wants to read it, it's fine with me.
It's in the Zoom chat, so, and I think there is an opportunity.
We can read it. We don't have to respond to a comment.
Yeah, let's just wait. I think it's best. I mean, if everyone, I've said this before, a written comment's good, but if you want to make a public comment, it's better to hear you say it. And so we'll have a public citizens open forum at the end of this meeting. And
I put it this way, like, we can't read it unless there's identification information associated with it. It can't be an anonymous comment.
It wasn't anonymous. I
Oh,
just
I'm just
didn't
saying.
have time to read the whole
Yeah.
thing when it popped up on the screen briefly.
Okay.
So,
So after this discussion, then there is an opportunity for public comment,
Yeah.
you're saying? Yeah,
okay,
that
so
makes
somebody
sense.
who wants to say something could raise their Zoom hand and be called on.
Yeah,
Once we
Okay.
finish the.
I'll ask that before we're done. You can remind me if I don't.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so
Any additional questions?
any other questions any questions for Joe on the MBTA material? Chuck, do you have anything else for your administrative report?
no, that was the 2 items that I had.
Okay, so we have minutes to approve.
August 13th and August 27th.
We got the 27th in time. I know I sent back a comment, but I don't
I
remember
think
when
the
I got it.
27th we got first and the 13th we got after.
Okay,
Yeah, the 13th came in 2
Um,
days ago.
Yeah. So the 27th we've had for a
Right,
full 2
yeah,
weeks.
looks like-
And if people haven't had time to read the 13th, we can hold off and do that later. But we certainly should be able to
Okay,
vote on the
So let's do the
27th.
27th first. So can I have a motion to accept the minutes for August 27th?
So moved.
Shirag?
In favor?
Walter Talbot's in favor?
Martha Moore in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor.
And who second? I didn't hear a second.
I second and in favor.
Okay,
Okay.
it doesn't matter. Somebody did, good. So we're saying the 27th, people didn't have time to look at, we only got
No,
it 2 days
The
ago.
27th,
the
people
13th,
had time. The
13th
13th,
came 2 days ago, and 9,
we
10, I
still
haven't,
need more time.
and I haven't seen 9, 10 yet, so.
No, 9/10 hasn't come in.
So we will hold on to those 2 and add this one, hopefully.
So people should definitely be ready to vote about 2 weeks from now on the 13th.
Okay,
Make sure you have read it and commented as needed.
and so can that person who wanted to make a comment, please raise your hand so Chuck can call on you? And please identify yourself.
Just give me a second, though. I don't see anyone raising their hand.
Use the reactions function at the bottom and find the raise hand underneath reactions.
Yeah, I don't see it. I thought it would be him too. So unless he's having some
Well, there he
problems.
is, don't see it. Okay, at the bottom of your screen, there should be a thing that says reactions.
let's
It
just
might
assume
be
it's
within
Lucas.
more.
Just mentioned.
We did?
Lucas just said he couldn't see it, so. I
Oh,
think he's
okay.
attempting to.
I'm
He's
gonna,
a co-host now, yay.
So you can unmute and introduce yourself, please.
Hi, sorry about that. I'm on my phone. I didn't know where the reactions was. Lucas Prado, 85 Hancock. I hope everybody's well and had a great summer. Myself and Jim Riley went to the MBTA board meeting and spoke in front of both of them for our 3 minutes or so. And yeah, I'm not sure of how many of you attended the 9:15 meeting. But as Joseph can attest, there was a lot of, once again, community concern, riders that use the MBTA are questioning the whole concept of the project and all that stuff. I know this doesn't pertain to the Conservation Commission, but even on the 9th, due to the sound study, I'll call it false suspect data, they are just ignoring, once again, all of our requests. So my question to you all, and we asked this to them and they said no after both meetings, can you just simply request that they postpone their notice of intent, which they submitted today?
So no, it doesn't work that way. Once they submit it, we have legal deadlines date-wise by which we have to take certain steps.
yeah, so we can't prevent them from submitting their notice of intent. And we can't delay them once we have it because of the jurisdictional thresholds that are the regulations through the state. Sometimes people go to a lot of planning board meetings and they're able to set their meeting agenda based on amounts and things like that. We cannot do that in conservation with the conservation permits. So I want you to know that I did hear or know that people wanted this postponed. It wasn't something that I could take up myself, but I do know that Matt had mentioned that he had brought it up. So, and when I let them know that I just received the electronic copy, I think that although he didn't say it, I think his disappointment was the fact that he had hoped that they would postpone.
Yeah, and I know this doesn't pertain to the conservation, but just you have the February 25th meeting where there were a whole lot of false promises made with regards to open communication. 7 months went by. 2 weeks ago, we were made aware of the 9th meeting, so we had 3 days to prepare for that. Then we found suspect data, had another week to prepare for the 15th meeting. Roughly the same attitude from the Reading community. Yes, there were some advocates, but I honestly don't believe those advocates fully understand the location. It's just, once again, we are getting railroaded, pun intended, by the MBTA with this project. And they had 7 months to prepare. The town of Reading has had no time or input for 7 months. So once again, it's not directed to you. It's just, if you can't tell, frustration on our behalf.
Okay, Lucas, I mean, we don't even have an open hearing on it yet. So at this point, I think I want to wrap that up if we can.
Sure. Yep.
Okay, but I appreciate you calling in.
Yep. Thank you for your time.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Okay, is there anything else then before we adjourn? No, can I have a motion to adjourn at 9:44?
So moved.
Second.
Everybody in favor? Thank you. I should stop saying when we adjourn and say adjourn with 16 minutes to spare. I had more positive light.
This was 7:45, I'd say.
So Rick, have you taken your keys down yet?
I have, yes.